Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to X-Plane 10. And on the whole, what is going to be one massive experiment of a video, for a number of reasons. First of all, I've never done an X-Plane video before in my life. I've streamed X-Plane quite a few times on my Twitch channel, and people have asked me, can you upload your flights you've done on Twitch over to YouTube, and my answer has usually been no, because the video quality of them is shockingly bad, because my internet is shockingly bad. So I said, rather foolishly, that I would make some X-Plane videos for YouTube, which had been properly edited, and so on and so forth, so that they looked all nice and, you know, watchable. However, I then discovered that X-Plane is really awkward if you want to record it and not stream it. It's incredibly awkward, just because of the way the graphics engine for it works, or something like that. My recording software I normally use doesn't seem to be able to hook into it properly. So what I've actually done is I have sat down and read the effing manual for Open Broadcaster, which is what I normally use to stream with, and as it turns out I can set different profiles in OBS. So I now have a profile set up for recording in high quality, which you're seeing here, and I now have a profile also set up for streaming in low shitty quality that's friendly with my internet. So this is interesting because I've never done it before, and there are two nice side effects to this. One, the file size of the video recorded is actually very small compared to what I would normally use because of the way not FF Split, that's a completely different piece of software, the way OBS encodes and compresses this stuff. The file size is very small, which means that I'm actually able to record in 60 FPS without it destroying my hard drive. So yeah, this is my officially the first ever 60 FPS video I have done for YouTube. Let's hope it works. It also means I now potentially have a way to record Silent Hunter 3 without it crashing, but you know, we'll get on to that when I do a Silent Hunter 3 video. So anyway, welcome to X-Plane 10. This is also an experiment because I've never done an X-Plane video. I've only done sort of streams, and they weren't very professional ones at that. And as you know, I generally tend to try and hold myself to a little high, well, you know, sort of slightly higher standards when I'm doing videos as opposed to streams, so this is going to be interesting to say the least. Welcome to London Heathrow Airport. It is approximately just a little past that actually, 2:30 in the afternoon. In the sim anyway, it's a bit later in the evening here. And for England, I think you'll agree, the skies are uncharacteristically clear at the moment. They are. They're very clear indeed. It won't stay that way for much longer, but they are for now. Behind me is an aeroplane. This is an Airbus A320. That's the type of aircraft it is. Obviously, as you can see, it's a British Airways aircraft. To be more specific, this here is Speedbird 966, or if you prefer, British Airways Flight 966. This aeroplane we are going to be flying today. We are going to be flying it from here in London Heathrow Airport, and we're going to be flying it all the way across the Channel into Europe and into Germany, where we're going to land at Hamburg International Airport, as a matter of fact. We're going to hopefully do so without too many cock-ups along the way. I'm admittedly a little bit nervous because normally I'm streaming this and it's a very different atmosphere. For some reason, I guess it's pretty silly, but for whatever reason, because I'm recording this as a video, I feel like I'm under pressure to not screw up quite as bad as I might normally do. So anyway, yeah. That's all there is really to it. We're at gate 509, I think, at present. I'm not flying online. This is completely offline. I had toyed with the idea of flying online on VATSIM so that we could have some air traffic control and other planes in the area to deal with, but I figured baby steps, actually. I'm dealing with about 6 new different things at once right now, so we'll take this one step at a time, shall we? So for now, we're flying offline, in single player, if you like. So yeah, here we are. And, you know, without further ado, I think we're just going to get started. I thought about how in-depth I was going to go with this, to what extent I was going to explain how everything works and what I was doing. And I've decided what I'm actually going to do, really, is just going to jump in, as I normally would, and fly the aircraft, and probably skip out a lot of the boring setup stuff, and just get on with it, and really just let your guys' feedback kind of steer the direction of future X-Plane videos that I do, because I really don't know how to do this. I don't know how much you guys want to learn about how this thing works. Maybe you just want to watch me fly the sim. You know, maybe you want to hear about how it all works. Maybe you don't give a damn how it all works. Maybe you just want to look at the pretty pictures. I really don't know. So you'll have to, you know, give me feedback and stuff like that in the comments as far as this is concerned. So anyway, we've got the catering truck here. We just come up the stairs. Everything seems to be present and correct. It's quite nice and tidy in here, as far as I can tell. So I'm now going to warp through the door like Homer Simpson going through that hedge in The Simpsons, because I can't actually open the door. It's not animated, which is kind of a shame, because on some planes in this sim you can open the door. But anyway, and here we are. This is the cockpit of the Airbus A320. This simulation of it brought to you by the very nice folks at JARDesign, J-A-R Design. I'm quite fond of this aeroplane. And today we're going to fly it, not on a very long trip, but we're going to fly it nevertheless. Now, British Airways Flight 966, otherwise known as Speedbird 966, which is what our call sign would be on the radio if we were actually talking to air traffic control and other aircraft. Sadly, we're not today, as I explained, but hey. Speedbird 966 here is a real flight. It's a real flight. It exists. It actually flew earlier today, this afternoon. In fact, it actually took off, or it departed, at about 5 minutes past 3 in the afternoon on the 25th of November, which is the date of recording presently. I can, with a bit of fancy OBS magic, actually go to my other monitor right now, if I remember the button for it. There we go, and show you a website called FlightAware, which is basically a live flight tracking website, as you can see, which allows you to look up all sorts of commercial flights that are going on in the world, and you can track them and see their progress and stuff like that. As you can see, 20th of November 2015, aircraft was actually an A319, but they'll switch, as you can see here, between A319s and A320s, depending on what's available. An A319 is exactly the same aircraft as this, effectively just a little bit smaller. It took off from London Heathrow, it landed at Hamburg, it departed at 13 minutes past 3 GMT precisely, and it arrived at 10 to 6 in the evening Central European time. So there you go, and the duration of the flight was 1 hour 35 minutes apparently in total. We could find out all sorts of other stuff on here, like the altitude and their average speed and that kind of thing, and you can see their overall route as well on the map here. So yeah, it's a real flight. It's legit. It's a actual plane with an actual crew who fly this route that we're about to do in real life, and did so earlier this afternoon. And we're going to effectively follow in their footsteps and have a go and see what we can do. So I've got a bit of a briefing and stuff ready. I've got my flight briefing, I've got a map of our route and all that kind of thing, which I'll go through with you guys in a bit. As I said, I'm kind of making this up as I go along. I don't really know what I'm doing. And I almost forgot, as a matter of fact there, to switch back to the game. That's going to be an issue, isn't it? I can already tell. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. I'm making this up as I go along, like I said, and I'm learning to use OBS as a recording software and not just a streaming software. So I've already waffled on enough for now. I suppose we better get this thing turned on and ready to go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was a lot of faffing about, to put it lightly, a lot of which was my own damn fault for not bothering to plan ahead a little better than I should have. So I created myself a lot more work than I should have when I was filling out the information into the computer here, the MCDU it's called, by the way, in Airbus. I don't know exactly what that stands for. Multi-colour display unit, maybe? I'm not really sure. Anyway, either way, we're pretty much all set up now, fingers crossed and all, but we're pretty much all set up now. So the only thing left to do really is to get rid of all the ground gubbins that we've got down here and get ready to go. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to power up the APU, which is this. We start master switch on, we hit start. Now an APU, for those who do not know, is an auxiliary power unit. And in layman's terms, what it is actually a tiny little jet engine. Tiny adorable little jet engine located in the tail of the plane, and this is the little exhaust port for it. And essentially what that tiny little jet engine does is it provides electricity to the aircraft while the engines are off. So as you can see, the APU page has automatically come up on here because I started the APU, and it now says green available, which means APU power is available, which means I can actually disconnect the external power, so that ground power unit can now go away because the aircraft is now officially powering itself. It doesn't need to be plugged into the airport anymore, if you want to look at it that way. And I'm going to switch on the APU bleed, which essentially what that does is, and I don't understand it 100% myself, but what it does is it bleeds hot air from the APU, the little jet engine in the back here, through the aircraft into the rest of the plane essentially, and what it will do is it will provide air to the air conditioning systems on board, and it will provide air to both of the engines, which require some hot air to be bled through into them in order to get them started in the first place as part of their startup procedure, if you see how that works. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but anyway, that's how jet engines work essentially. So that the bleed air can now come on, which will then power all the all the bits and bobs that require air. And now we're going to assume that the passengers have finished boarding. Hopefully they have. If they haven't, then sod 'em, because we're going anyway. What time is it? Just out of curiosity. We're already late. It's 7 minutes past 3, so told you we'd be late, but never mind. Again, that's probably partly because I screwed up in the planning phase, but hey. So, get these doors shut. Get rid of the catering truck, get rid of the stairs. Away with you, sirs. And the ground power can go away as well. And you'll notice the covers and stuff, like the wheel chocks and the pitot covers and the engine covers are all disappeared because I got rid of them while we were setting up. So the aircraft is now more or less ready to go. We've got a little positional lights on already. In a moment, I'm going to switch on our beacon light to let anyone else who may be around here at the airport know that this aircraft is about to power up and push back. So before we do that, though, I'm going to run through quickly this before start checklist we've got here. So gear pins and covers removed. Yeah, pitot static covers checked. Yeah, whatever. Signs on and auto. Yep, they're up here. Did them. Fuel, we have 6.5 tons of fuel on board, which is probably more than we need. It's more than the briefing said, but I like to take extra sometimes in case of emergencies, or mostly in case of me messing something up, essentially. Yep, fuel 6.5 tons, check. Altimeters are set to 1014. That is a setting you punch into your altimeters, which accounts for the local air pressure. It gives you a more accurate reading for your altitude. Again, this is stuff I don't fully understand, it's just that's what you do. So I checked the weather, and the local pressure is 1014 hectopascals, which is the unit of measurement for that. If you're in the US, by the way, you don't use hectopascals because imperial measurements and stuff, you use inches of mercury. Whoops. And I just pressed the wrong button. You use, inches of mercury, which would be 2, 9, and 9 of 5 if we were in America right now, but we're not. We're in England, so we use hectopascals. Anyway, beacon is about to go on. Where are you? There you are. Beacon's now on, which means that we'll get a flashing red light on the top of our aircraft. Parking brake is on for now, as required, and mobile phones are off. So everybody in the audience, yeah, you lot, turn your mobile phones off, damn it. Because reasons that I don't understand, but just do it, alright? Okay? Yeah, that's pretty much it. We are ready to go. Now, if this were real life, or if we were on, multiplayer, I would dial in the frequency for ground control and ask them for clearance to, push back and get our engine started. But we don't have to do that because we're by ourselves. So essentially what I'm now going to do is I'm going to call for the pushback tug. Now this has a built-in pushback tug, but I'm going to use Tugmaster because everybody loves Tugmaster. Anyone who's come to my streams knows all about Tugmaster. So here he comes. Call upon the Tugmaster, mighty Tugmaster, master of tugs, to drive over here through all the bollards. Wow. And push my plane back so it is ready to depart this wonderful airport. Here he is. It's basically a tractor. This is how this works, in case you don't know anything about commercial aviation or airports or anything like that. The aircraft actually start facing, you know, buildings and things like that, and in order to get out and get going, obviously they have to turn around, and they can't do that by themselves, so they get tractors, tugs like these, to do it. So we've called him. We're ready to lock. So what I need to do now is
park brake off.
Remove the parking brake, and he can now lock, which means what he will do is he will back up towards me. His appendages and things will come out, and he's going to do some weird Thunderbird shit right now. Or he comes in here, locks on, grabs the nose wheel, and actually lifts the plane up off the ground slightly from the nose. I think. I can't remember which type of tug does that. I think it's this one, but anyway. So now he's done that, he's locked in, he's ready to go, and he can start pushing us back. So, at which point the ground crew will be like, oh, right, okay, you're clear to push back, engine start, da-da-da-da-da. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, starting the engine is ludicrously simple. All we have to do is switch this little thingy-majiggy here, this ignition lever selector, whatever you call it, from normal to ignition/start.
Starting engine 2.
And then we click the big lever with engine 2 written on it. Pretty brilliant, really, when you think about it. So, and now, as that is happening, we start to get pushed back, and I need to pay attention here because I need to control this myself with these arrow buttons you can see here, at the same time as starting up my engines. So we need to essentially push ourselves back and then line up on here. Now the runway we're taking off from is 27 right, if I recall correctly, which means that one over there. We've got a bit of a taxi ahead of us, actually, I'm afraid. We've got to go all the way down to the other end of that runway. But we need to be facing that direction when we're done here. Okay, so our engine is looking good. The N1%, don't actually know what that means, but hey, it's at 20%, which I know is good, so we can start number 1.
Starting engine 1.
Don't ask me why we start 2 and then 1 and not the other way around. It just seems to be the way they do this in real life with almost any plane, to be honest with you, that has multiple engines. You always start engine 1 last. I don't really know why. It's probably something to do with the way the hydraulics and everything are wired up, if I had to guess. So now I need to turn and not completely screw it up with by getting the direction wrong, which is exactly what I've just done. Okay. Oh dear. We usually play some ridiculous music if this is a stream, like the Imperial March from Star Wars or Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers, just because my pushbacks generally tend to be a bit disastrous, as this one is proving to be as well. But never mind, we're pointing in more or less the right direction. We're not quite on the taxi line, but who gives a damn? We're done. Tugmaster can unlock when he's got a free moment. Yeah, he's unlocking, good. And he could probably bugger off as well, actually. So yeah, he's going to drive away. And I'm going to put the parking brake on. There we go. So we're not going anywhere, thankfully. Not unless I say so, anyway. That's the general idea of how aeroplanes work, don't you know? So, yeah. Now, I'm going to have a look on here. Now, I'm not doing these checklists, by the way, because I'm a massive nerd and I get a kick out of doing checklists. It's just to make sure, to be honest with you, and this is kind of why they do it in real life, is just to make sure I haven't missed anything ludicrously important that would cause the plane to drop out of the sky immediately after takeoff. So, I have to start checklist. Anti-ice, probably not required. As I said, there aren't many clouds around. Even though it's very cold, it's very, very chilly, as I say. It might look nice and sunny right now here in England, but it's currently 9 degrees Celsius out there. It's pretty damn chilly. So, yeah, but I don't think we'll require anti-icing, because we're not liable to fly through many clouds, since there's not very many around, but it's something to bear in mind. trim is checked and set and everything. The rudder trim is set to 0, which is good. Flight controls. Okay, now we get to do one of the fun bits. So I need to hit pedal disconnect so that I don't go moving the nose wheel around or anything silly like that. And over here we go and click flight controls. So we have this here. So we've got the side stick down there. We've got this here, and now all essentially I need to do is check that everything works. And this is a good idea to do, even though it's a sim and not a real plane, because it means that it allows you to check basically all your joysticks and shit are plugged in properly. So, okay, full left, all seems to be working there. The stick's moving, as are all the dials and things on here. Yep, that's working. Full up, full down, and then full left rudder. Again, pedals are moving. This is moving as well, so we can rest assured that everything is working correctly in that department. If anything's going to go wrong, it ain't going to be the controls. We can safely rule that out. I can undisconnect the pedals, if I remember how. We can kill Tugmaster, thank you. And we're pretty much ready to taxi. Now, what I should have done, actually, before we push back, was run through this sort of takeoff briefing with you guys. This is sort of a little briefing that the pilot and co-pilot would normally do, but I'm doing it with you lot. So, okay, well, this is my briefing document. It probably looks like gibberish to most of you. It's kind of is gibberish, really. But it lists everything we need to know about our flight. Most of it, again, is irrelevant for the purposes of flying in a sim, but hey. What I've also got here is a map of our route. That's us starting here in London, taking off, flying all the way over here to Hamburg. So there's a visual representation of the route we're actually going to be flying, in case your geography ain't so good. That's where we're going, basically. And I've double-checked on the computer here, on the navigational display, to make sure our route matches up more or less. I did delete 1 or 2 waypoints here and there because they made no sense and had us doing crazy S-turns and things. But by and large, it looks pretty damn good. So, yeah, that looks okay. So we're going to be taking off of runway 27, as dictated by the wind currently, here at Heathrow. 27 right, so the one over there, as opposed to the 27 over there, behind us. Which means I need to taxi up there, and then go all the way to the end, and then we'll pull on, and then we'll get going. We're pretty much ready to go here. We'll just pretend we've been cleared onto the runway to take off. Double checking we are in fact on the correct runway. Yep, we do appear to be. We can also, if we want to, get up a taxi cam thing here, just to see where we are. That's very helpful if you're a bit lost at an airport you've never been to before. Especially if you're flying online and the air traffic controller gives you a bunch of instructions and you're sat there looking at a map of the airport thinking, oh god, where the hell am I? This helps a lot. Very cool. I like it. Anyway. So we're ready pretty much to go. I'm going to bring up my coffee table checklist thing here. Yeah, I know they have a coffee table and this thing is pretty crazy. I'll talk a bit more about the Airbus as a plane later because it's a pretty fascinating bit of machinery, this actually, in many ways. So, after start still done. Takeoff auto brake is set to max. Correctamundo. The signs are on. Yep. Spoilers are armed. Yep. Flaps are set to 2. The altimeters are set. Takeoff config is normal. Yeah, takeoff no blue, I believe, is the exact phrase you actually use to do this checklist in real life. If you're a total nerd like me, you might use it yourself. I don't know. So we're takeoff no blue because there's no blue letters on there. And the packs, well, they're set to auto. So I don't really know exactly where the packs are. There it is. There's pack 1 and there's pack 2. If there's no white lights, that means it's good. Essentially, it's called a moonlit cockpit configuration. If you're interested. Basically, as long as there's no white lights on the overhead panel, everything's fine. You don't need to worry about anything. If you do see a white light, that's when you need to start worrying. I was about to say panicking, but that's a bit strong, really. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to go. One last couple of things to do. One is set our transponder to Squawk Charlie. That's the thing that allows the radar controllers to see us in the air, as well as other aeroplanes. It's set to on. Yep, good. And that's sort of it, really. Oh, we can set our weather radar on as well. Put the gain on auto. Put it on weather. Put the tilt on 0 for now. Basically auto, I think. And then when there's no clouds of precipitation around for miles right now, so nothing will appear on this for the moment. But if there were bad weather ahead of us, you'd see it on the display here being rendered as weather. So here we go. We're pretty much ready to roll. Speedbird 966 is ready to go. Massively behind schedule, I'm sure. Should we have a look just for shits and giggles? Yes, we're about half an hour late, which is great, but hey. Okay, let's do this. So spool the engines up to about 50%, just to make sure everything looks hunky-dory here. Both of them synchronized nicely on the dials. And then takeoff power is set. I need to push the nose down by about 5 degrees on the stick to account for the fact that the Airbus is slightly nose light.
100 knots.
Checked.
V1. Rotate.
Rotate. When you're ready, aircraft, please. Thank you. And we're away.
Climb. Gear up.
Gear up, thank you. We are accelerating like crazy right now,
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
which means I'm going to put the flaps up. It's because I set my speed on here to 250 to essentially deal with a
Speed checked. Flaps 0.
interesting little issue with the way this plane works. I'll talk about it another time. The GPWS is going bonkers right now, by the way, because I'm not climbing. There we go. And now we're pretty much on track. So I can effectively now, if I like, bring the thrust back to climb, which will engage auto throttle. And aircraft will just effectively handle itself now if I just hit autopilot 1 on.
Pilot 1. Cross check.
That's all there is to it. Now the plane will effectively fly the rest of the route, hopefully correctly. It's very quiet. It's very bloody quiet. The engine sound is really insanely quiet, but it's probably got something to do with... I actually had to lower the audio of it because it was too loud for me to hear the the ATC on the radio last time I flew this thing. So, and there you go. There's England down below us. That's photoreal scenery, by the way. That's exactly what it looks like in real life. This is taken from satellite photographs. This all this scenery you're looking at. We're throttling down because we're about to reach 6,000 feet, and that's okay. We're actually going to stay at 6,000 for a little while now, because that's how this departure is supposed to be flown. That's the altitude horn beeping at us to let us know that we've reached the altitude we set on here. And that's pretty much it. I'll flick that over to flight plan mode. We are at transition altitude, which means what I need to do is I just need to set from our previously set altimeter thingy here to...
Standard baro cross check. Passing flight level 059.
Yeah, anyway. I've set it to standard now. Now, the way this works, essentially, is you know how I told you about, we set it so it was calibrated for the local air pressure. Now, above a certain altitude, which varies depending on which European country you're in, and which part of that European country you're in, you set it to standard, which is actually 1013. And the idea is basically just so that every plane above a certain altitude is flying on the same altimeter settings. It's really that simple, just to avoid any confusion, and to avoid having to constantly adjust it as you fly across the world as well, because that would be very annoying. So there you go. There's Heathrow down there. We just took off out of there, as you can see. And that's London over there. And we are now pretty much on our way to Germany. Well then, to coin that ancient phrase that is oft quoted but right now incredibly appropriate, what goes up must indeed eventually come down. Yeah, so this is going to take a bit of work from us. We're coming to our top of descent, which is this little purple arrow here. That tells us that's the point where probably we ought to definitely start getting this plane down so that we reach the ground in time to actually land. So that's coming up, so really right now we need to start planning and preparing. Now luckily for us, in this wonderful Airbus where most of the stuff is handled by computers and is mostly automated, there's not a lot really for us to do. However, there are a few things that are worth dealing with if we want to get this thing down safely at least anyway. The first of which is we need to go into the MCDU here and we need to go to perf. And we need to... that button, for some reason, is bugged out. If you click it sometimes, it just repeats the sound endlessly. It's the most irritating thing ever. We need to go... Okay, we've got descent, and then approach phase. So, according to the weather info I have on my other monitor right now, which you guys can't see, the QNH, so the local pressure in Hamburg at the minute is 1003 on our altimeter, so let's punch that in there. The temperature is paltry 5 sodding degrees. So if I thought it was cold in England, I have another thing coming apparently. The wind is blowing 250 degrees, and it's blowing at 4 knots, so mercifully we have very little wind to deal with. And our V approach, which is auto-calculated, as it says there, which will be the speed at which we fly our final approach onto the runway, is 141 knots. So we've also got here a decision height. It's night time. We're in instrument flying conditions, therefore we will be using a decision height using our radio altimeter, our radar in the nose essentially, rather than using our barometric altimeter. So it's defaulted us to a decision height of about 200 feet. That's the point at which we fly all the way down to 200 feet, and if we can see the runway, then we land. If we can't see the runway, or something's wrong with the plane, we don't land, we go around. So don't mind that clicking in the background, it's just my glitchy throttle, nothing to worry about. So yeah, let's have another look at this here. We're still a little while to go yet, but it doesn't hurt to be prepared in advance, well in advance, especially when it's me we're talking about. So that's pretty much sorted. The only thing now is we actually need to have a look at the arrival. So my flight briefing. Okay, by the way, here's the route we're flying, and right now we are, as you can see, we're approaching Dobrak. So we took off there in England, and we've managed to fly all the way over here, and we're just approaching Dobrak there, and then we'll start descending and then arriving into Hamburg, which is right there. So I'm going to go to our briefing here, and I'm going to have a look at what it seems to have filed us for as an arrival route and what not to actually expect based on the current weather. So we're expecting runway 23, and that does indeed match up with the wind at the moment. Runway 23, basically if you're in any doubt as to which runway you should be landing on, you should be landing on the one that matches the direction of the wind at present. So the direction of the wind at the minute is 250 degrees. And runway 23 is called runway 23 because it points, the direction it's pointing is 230 degrees. So 250, 230, that's pretty damn close. 230 is a good bet for the runway we're going to get. Now, whatever happens, because we're offline and there's no air traffic control,
Descent, sir.
thank you, Mr. Co-Pilot, we can land on whatever the damn hell runway we please, because, you know, we're not going to piss anyone off. But if we were flying online, as I frequently do, we would actually be told what runway and approach to expect by ATC, and we would have to kind of guess which one we're going to get in advance when we're getting things set up. So, yeah. And it looks like we're going to get the RIBSO 2 Alpha arrival. So, now this is sorted out for now. We can leave this alone. We can now go to flight plan, scroll down. In fact, I don't need to do that, just click that. And this is the arrival to Hamburg, as you can see here. So we're looking for ILS 23, runway 23 with the ILS approach, which I'll talk more about later. And the star is going to be RIBSO 2 Alpha, if we can find it here somewhere. RIBSO 2 Alpha, right at the bottom. There we go. And is it going to have a via? Apparently it's going to have via LBE, according to my plan here. You see LBE is this last one on here, Elba. It's the Elba VOR radio station, apparently. No transition. And it looks like we're good. So we'll insert that, and that will pop that into our flight plan. All this crap down here, as you can see. And it's actually adjusted our top of descent to compensate for that, to a bit further ahead. I might start descending a little earlier just to be on the safe side, because this Airbus with its top of descent calculations can be a little funny sometimes. Not the real Airbus in real life, I mean this specific simulation of it can be a bit wonky occasionally. So yeah, I'll probably just start descending maybe at Revla or possibly even a Vesa there. So, but that looks okay, so I'm going to close that for now. That's a little plug-in you can get for the game. Sorry, sim. Mustn't call it a game, otherwise I'll tick people off terribly. This is a little thing called eBag. You can download it. It's a plug-in you can install into the sim, and it allows you to view PDF files from within the sim instead of having to get it up on a different monitor or something. Pretty cool. I like it. Anyway, so let's have a look at a map of our approach here. So if I hit Control 3, you can now see my other monitor. So here we go. Ribso is the first point of our arrival. That's why it's called Ribso 2 Alpha. It's because Ribso is the first waypoint at the beginning of the arrival route. And this is like the departure we took, essentially in reverse. We're following a standardized route into the airport, effectively. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to Ribso, and then we're going to follow Ribso 2 Alpha here. We're going to fly along here at about 4,000 feet. Then we get to Elba, LBE. See, that's the radio station I mentioned. And then we hold there, and we descend. If we're not already at 4,000 feet, we keep descending until we are at 4,000 feet. And then I think from that point, effectively, that's when the approach to the runway begins, which looks something like this. So, there you go. See, we could go direct from Ribso, or we can go via Elba. And we're going via Elba, as the plan seems to dictate. So we would actually fly from Ribso to Elba, as you saw on the star chart there. And we fly in, and then we basically make a right turn, and then bam, we're done. Either that, or depending on how things are going, I think we then go all the way up there and then back around here. But realistically, air traffic control in reality, and if this were online, they would vector us in any old direction they want us to go, and then they would get us onto the final approach line here, and then get us in to go. And I will effectively, I think once we get to a certain point, vector myself effectively onto the final approach, because you know that's really kind of how it works. So, but anyway, that's what it looks like. Apparently, our decision height is going to be is 98 feet using a radio altimeter. Well, we've got it at 200. Screw it, you know. See, I knew that whole screen switching thing would get me in trouble. Okay, quick edit here. Yeah, I forgot when I recorded that bit, just you see it now, I forgot to switch back to the actual sim when I started doing things in the sim. Go me. Anyway, so yeah, just a brief change there. I've now started descending past our top of descent point. We're going down at about 2,000 feet a minute. On our way into the arrival, as I pretty much explained just now, and that's all it is really. I changed this dial down to 4,000 feet, pulled the knob, matron, to put us into open descent, and we're going down, and we should hopefully reach 4,000 feet in time to do our approach to the runway, etc., etc. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So I'm actually pretty much now waiting, sitting around twiddling my thumbs until we break out of the clouds and we get close enough to actually see something. So yeah, I'll be back, folks, when we're actually ready to land. Okay, right, the weather just refreshed itself. I was like, what's going on? Suddenly in space. Okay, we're now crossing 10,000 feet, and we're actually... We're supposed to be an open descent, but the plane is not descending very fast. We're at 400 feet a minute now, right now, which seems a bit silly. We're crossing 10,000 feet anyway, which means we light up like a Christmas tree. Fun times. Hee all the lights and stuff come on. Incidentally, I completely forgot to switch on my lights and things when we took off in the first place back at Heathrow, so yeah, epic pilot error there on my part. I have punched in a holding pattern in this thing here, over here at LBE, as there is a holding pattern there in the approach charts and things like that, simply because we are not at 4,000 feet yet. I can't imagine we'll be able to descend to 4,000 by in that little short bit of different distance there. So we're going to go into this holding pattern and we'll stay into it until we've descended down to 4,000, and then continue our approach, which it's looking pretty tidy, really. No nonsense. We'll just fly over here and then to make a right turn and then onto our final approach. To be honest with you, I was thinking of vectoring myself in, but there's really sort of no point. You might as well just fly the whole thing as published and get on with it. By the way, look at that. I've got a TCAS contact, which means there's another plane here somewhere. Who is apparently... If I'm reading that correctly, he should be 18,000 feet below us. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because we're at 8,000 feet, so he's below the Earth's crust, if that's the case. Maybe that's 1,500 feet, as opposed to 15,000. Must be 1,500 feet. Anyway, there's another plane out there. It'll be an AI. I have AI turned on, because you need it turned on in order to play multiplayer. Because reasons, I don't know why. So, yeah, they're very rare, but there are a few AI planes around here and there, and we just seem to have spotted one on our TCAS, which is Traffic Collision Avoidance System, if I remember correctly. That's essentially what this thing here is. That's our Squawk transponder thing. We're picking up his transponder on our display. So that's all there is to it now, really. We can see a little bit of our destination down there. Lights out there amongst the clouds. I'm not sure what that is. Is that the airfield? Or is it something else? I'm not really sure, honestly. I suppose we can activate approach phase now. Confirm.
Approach phase activated.
Aha, so, okay, so now what happens is the Airbus, God bless it, once I put it into manage speed mode by clicking there, it will slow down to green dot speed, which is the green dot here, and essentially green dot speed is the lowest speed it can be at, I think, at the current sort of flaps configuration and whatnot. I'm going to switch on my little reading lamp thingy here and have a look at this. So, landing. We'll need our landing gear down, signs on, spoilers armed, flaps. We will be landing config full, so flaps 4 will be our final flaps detent. There you go, see full. For landing this beast. Spoilers will need to be armed. I suppose we can do most of this now, really. I think we're okay for now. In a minute I'm going to bring this down to flaps 1 and then 2 and then gear down, and then we'll go down to 3. The gear will come down pretty much as soon as we make that turn and we get onto the final approach, and we're fully established on that. That's when the flaps will go down to 3 and the gear will come down. So let's turn that off again for now. Put away the coffee table. It's not actually a coffee table, I just call it that because this plane was designed by the French and therefore it has a coffee table in it. Alright, let's get some flaps on the go then.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
There we are, flaps 1. And as you can see, look, because I lowered the flaps, the Airbus now lowers its speed to the next lowest speed it can be at with the flaps down. It's clever stuff. Truly. You'd have to be doing all this manually yourself if you're flying a Boeing, but the Airbus just sort of figures it out. Some people don't like that, obviously. So some people like to be very hands-on and do everything themselves, but at the moment, in the midst of recording a video and commentating and talking and trying to fly a bloody plane at the same time, I'm quite grateful for the fact that the Airbus is quite willingly handling a lot of this stuff for me. We'll look at some more complex things in the future, some more old-fashioned planes. But I need to get used to this whole talking while flying business, to be honest with you. Alright. Yeah, really not much to see up here, I'm afraid. I do apologise. Normally the view is fantastic at night in X-Plane, but the weather kind of screwed us over today, it would seem. Alright, here we go. Is the turn. I will...
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Flaps 2. I don't technically think you're supposed to lower flaps while turning an aeroplane, but you know, we'll just brush over that, shall we? Okay, let me just make sure everything's looking good up here. Our landing lights and stuff are all on. It all looks fine to me. Radios, obviously, we don't need to worry about because we're forever alone, single player. Yep, all looks good. Once we get established on this glide slope, they call it. In fact, I can put the ILS thingy on now. We will bring our gear down, and we'll do our little landing checklist, and it will be grand. So maybe I should talk to you about an ILS and what it is. Okay, right. An ILS is a combination of two bits of equipment. One is a VOR localizer beam, and the other is a glide slope. And essentially what those are is the VOR localizer beam is a radio beam that comes out from the runway in a straight line. This straight line here, to be very precise. And a modern aircraft is capable of locking onto that beam and flying along it, using its radio navigation equipment, or your GPS in this case. And a glide slope is kind of the same thing, except what a glide slope does is it gives the plane vertical information. So you've got this radio beam, the localizer, coming out, which tells the plane to fly along this line. So instead of wiggling around from side to side, it locks onto a straight line, which flies all the way to the runway. A glide slope is a vertical thing, so it tells the plane which vertical path to follow, put its nose down, and dive all the way to the runway, essentially, in layman's terms. And when you're established on the ILS, that means you've got your localizer and you've got your your glide slope acquired, which is what these little purple diamonds are here. This one here represents the glide slope. This one here represents the localizer. And as you can see, as we get onto this straight bit, this diamond moves into the middle, which means we'll be locked onto it. And what I can actually do is I can hit, hopefully it won't screw everything up, but I can hit localizer there, and the plane will lock onto it and follow it. There we go, see? I'm actually going to lower this to, oh, not that, 3,000. Plane will descend. Yeah, it looks like we're fully established now. It says Cat 3 single. If we wanted to do... This plane is capable of doing a full auto land, by which I mean the autopilot lands the plane for us. I'm not going to bother, but you could do that. And the way you do it is you knock in both autopilots and possibly some other stuff. I can't remember exactly, but I can't be asked with that. I'd rather land it myself. Let the autopilot handle most of the sodding flight as it is, you know. Might as well do a bit of the work at least. Actually, I need to switch this mode over here to ILS now, which gives me more information. That's essentially the same information that's been displayed there, just on the other screen. And we're following it down pretty nice, really. Bang on the slope, but we would be because the autopilot is really good at it. So, and there's the runway. And honestly, I could probably ride the autopilot all the way down to decision height, and then take it out and land it, but I'm actually going to take it out right now. That was very loud. However, having said that, I now have control of the plane. I don't have the throttles because the auto throttle's managing that, but...
Speed checked. Flaps full.
And I haven't put the flaps full. It's not much I really need to do. Although having put the flaps down, that has actually changed it much. But because of, as I said earlier, although I may have edited it out, depending on the length of the video,
1,000.
the way the fly-by-wire works in this Airbus is that actually you just point the stick and the plane where you want to fly, and it will keep holding that attitude until essentially something else happens that makes it drift in a different direction, like putting the flaps down now, for example. But anyway, for now, I have control. 3 very scary words, when they're coming from me anyway. We're now pretty much just going to coast all the way into the runway. I could probably take out the auto throttle now if I wanted to. And I might just do that. Actually, yeah, fuck it. Oops, steady now. Throttle shoots up there as a result of me.
Flaps.
No, we're not going around, dude. Shut up, you stupid co-pilot.
400.
Take out the auto throttle. It needs to slope going around. That may be a pre-programmed thing
300.
with taking out the auto throttle. I don't know, but anyway. Actually going to cut the throttle here 'cause we're a bit faster than we ought to be.
200.
Alright, here we go. That's more like
100. 50, 40, 30,
it. Okay.
20.
Retard the throttles. And, oh! Bounce. Slight bounce, I think, but never mind, we're down. Relatively smoothly, I think. It actually touched down a little sooner than I was expecting, to be honest with you, but hey. It'll do. Now, will the passengers like it? They'll either start shouting if they didn't like it, or they'll clap if they did. Reverses. I didn't put any auto brakes out, to be honest with you. Probably should have done. We got plenty of runway, though. Well, we did, anyway. I've taken way too long slowing down now, so... But we'll be alright. We'll just exit right off the end. Again, this is the problem with commentating. I was too busy focusing on what I was sodding while talking about, and I actually forgot. Oh, yeah, dude, you know, you have to actually slow down now you're on the runway. Hey, there we go. Passengers seem to like it. And we're not dead, so, hey. Job's a good one, as far as I'm concerned. Alright, and that's it. End of the runway. Off we go. So now I can whack off the landing lights because they are way too strong. We don't want to blind people. Bring the nose light down to taxi. Runway turn-offs. Yep, we do want those on. Oh, and the strobe can go off.
50, 40, 30, 20.
And here we are, folks. Should have switched those off before I came into park. But hey. We have arrived in Hamburg, where the local time is currently... I don't actually know. It's 20 past 5 UTC, but yeah, Central Europeans probably an hour or two ahead. So, yeah, maybe 20 past 6, I guess. It's bloody freezing cold, but welcome all the same. I've just powered down the engines. We have arrived. My parking was not brilliant. It was hindered somewhat by an interesting glitch I found after, you know, trying to access the replay. So never mind. But, yeah. That's pretty much all there is to it. I won't bore you with the shutdown and all that kind of nonsense. I guess we'll get the doors open. We'll get the stairs. We only need one door open for that. We'll get the ground power in. We will switch the external power on and power down the APU. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you found it interesting and enjoyable and maybe even a little bit educational on the side. I certainly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to maybe doing some more X-Plane videos in the future. I like doing my X-Plane streams, but the videos are... well, it takes a hell of a lot of effort to put all this together. It's kind of nice to put something a little more professional out, I hope. Hopefully the 60 FPS has worked out quite nicely as well. It's a bit of an experiment. If it works, I may make it the norm in future on all my videos, because the file size is not particularly big with OBS, as it would have been if I was recording 60 FPS with my old software. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody. And I will see you next time with hopefully some more X-Plane and hopefully some more Silent Hunter as well. That will be coming along now that I have a piece of recording software that can in fact record it, and not just record it, but record it in 60 FPS. So, thank you very much, everybody, and gute Nacht, I suppose.